Peace will fill the world when we finally understand that only from within can it be spread throughout the land. Every single person living peace in what we do, only then will our dream come true. Only then will our dream come true. Only then will our dream come true.
Good morning, friends. I'm Leona Evans, minister at Unity of San Luis Obispo, an inclusive spiritual community affirming the good in all life. Welcome to our Sunday morning live stream. It's wonderful to be here along with Brett Mitchell and Matthew J. Evans. This is going to be a wonderful service. We have some great music for you, valuable information in the lesson, and a lovely and inspiring meditation. So relax and get comfortable right where you are. Take a big deep breath. Prepare yourself to be open, receptive, and responsive to new information or old information heard in a brand new way. Again, take a deep breath, relax, and let us affirm together, I am now open and receptive to the living spirit of truth. Once again, I am now open and receptive to the living spirit of truth. Once again, become comfortable. Lay aside any other thoughts about what you should have done or what you will be doing. You can pick them up at the end of the service and just focus on the here and now. Let's listen to a joy song from Matthew J. Evans.
Good morning. Today we're going to sing Love is Like a Magic Penny. Please sing along with the lyrics on the bottom of the screen. Love is something if you give it away, you give it away, give it away. Oh, love is something if you give it away, you end up having more. It's just like a magic penny. Hold it tight and you won't have any. Lend it, spend it, you'll have so many. They'll roll all over the floor. Oh, love is something if you give it away. Give it away, give it away. Oh, love is something if you give it away, you end up having more. It's just like a magic penny. Hold it tight and you won't have any. Lend it, spend it, you'll have so many. They'll roll all over the floor. Oh, love is something if you give it away. Give it away, give it away. Hey, love is something if you give it away, you end up having more. Have a great morning, everybody.
Thank you so much, Matthew. That was just lovely. Well, the title of my talk today is Always Do Your Best. Now, many of you might recognize that as the fourth of the Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. He wrote that book 20 years ago. It's been a runaway bestseller, and people, ministers, psychologists, philosophers have been teaching this work for more than 20 years. Now, I have loved that work so much that I've made sure to do a Sunday lesson on it at least once a year. And every time I do it, I get more and more from the beauty and the simplicity of those statements. Let me just share the other three agreements with you. The first is be impeccable with your word. The second is don't take anything personally. The third is don't make assumptions. And the fourth is always do your best. And so when I've done a recap on these lessons, and as I said, I always discover something new and a new way of understanding teachings that I've heard before, and it gets really exciting for me. So what generally happens is I'll do a talk on the 4 agreements, and in my mind, I will tell myself to be careful that I devote an equal amount of time to each one. But what happens is I get so excited about be impeccable with your word, which is the first agreement, that I just talk on and on about it, and one insight leads to another, and I get so excited and I get so happy to talk about it. And then my little internal alarm clock starts beeping and tells me, you gotta move on, otherwise you won't give equal time to the other 3 agreements. Well, I already know that I can't do that because I spent a great deal of time on the first one, enjoyably enough, but still, I have 3 to go. So I decide to devote a little less time to the second one. Don't take anything personally. By the time I get to the third one, there's even less time before I have to stop. And so when I get to the 4th one, which is always do your best, what I basically say is, and the 4th agreement is always do your best, which is not the same as always do the best. It's very, very different. So just make sure to always do your best, which is dependent upon how you feel at any given time. And that's the end. So this week, I started thinking about some of the deeper meanings of always do your best. And I decided to devote an entire lesson to it so that not only does it get the time it deserves, but that we have a deeper understanding of how to be kinder to ourselves when we do something that does not meet with our approval or our inner critic's approval. We do a lot of disapproving of ourselves, and we always think, I should have done better. I should have done this more effectively. I shouldn't have said this. I should have said that. And we go on and on and on. And once the inner critic takes over, then we have a completely distorted sense of reality and really, really low self-esteem and very little self-acceptance. I love the 4 agreements because it always boils down to, if you want to feel better about who you are, then start working the 4 agreements because you deserve to feel better about who you are. We are going to start with talking about ways to use the 4th agreement after we hear a very special number from Brett Mitchell and Matthew J. Evans.
1, 2, 3. I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them bloom for me and for you. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I see skies of blue, clouds of white, a bright blessed day, a dark sacred night. I think to myself, what a wonderful world. The colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the sky, are also like the faces of the people going by. I see friends shaking on the faces of the people going by, I see friends shaking hands, saying, how do you do? They're really saying, I love you. Oh, I hear babies cry, I watch them grow. They'll learn much more than I'll ever know. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Yes, I think to myself, oh me, what a wonderful world.
Thank you so much, Brett Mitchell and Matthew J. Evans. Beautiful song and most beautifully done. And remember, there is absolute truth in those words that go beyond time, place, and circumstance. We need to continue to remember, and we need to continue to use our spiritual eyes to see and to know that it is a wonderful world, that it is a wonderful world for all of us. So now let's continue with the idea of always do your best, the fourth of 4 agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. I was raised to believe, or maybe I wasn't raised to believe this, but maybe I thought I was raised to believe that I should always be the best. Or I was nothing, that I always had to be the best. Now, with the study of the Enneagram and other personality type frameworks, I have come to see that we're all born with a certain bias, with certain personal identity that leans towards certain ideas over others. And because we are individualized, we're going to be raised taking certain input from others more personally and other input from others less personally than people around us. Obviously, we know that siblings who were raised in the same household by the same parents can come out with a completely different set of memories. And that is because we hear some things that we're very sensitive to, and other things we hear but don't seem to penetrate that area of sensitivity. So that's why I qualify. I can't really say I was raised to believe that I should always be the best, but I heard it all right. I heard it from that portion of my consciousness that was really susceptible to that. And so I grew up believing that if I wasn't the best, I was nothing. And that set me off with a hefty attack of perfectionism. Now I realize I'm not the only one that suffers from perfectionism, nor am I the only one that has an inner critic. See, the inner critic is an aspect of our consciousness, the ego part of us that is always looking to compete, that is always insisting that we are either flawless or nothing. And the inner critic is a pervasive voice, a part of the psyche of humanity. It's always there. And the more difficult and challenging our childhoods were, the more active the critic is. And so we are criticized mercilessly by the critic. We are told that we need to be afraid because if we don't do our best, then we won't be anything, we won't be lovable, we won't be good enough. We have to do everything right, or there will be an internal price to pay. This is quite hideous in many ways, quite a burden to bear, and yet it can be one of the most exciting burdens to bear if we understand the teachings of the universal omnipresent spirit of truth that speaks in and through all religions and speaks to each of us in a language that we can understand. When we know that there's a way out, we can recognize that one of the great purposes of having that challenge is because we can overcome it. And we can end up helping others who also have a very demanding critic inside of them. That's really what I decided to do after spending years in the theater and literally destroying any chance of having healthy self-esteem because I was constantly failing myself and the critic, constantly letting myself down, letting other people down. Not all of this was true, but I believed it was. And I spent many years in that business until I came to a place in my life where I wasn't satisfied living it that way anymore. And I started learning about progressive spirituality and the new thought teachings and unity teachings that said you were born as a necessary part of creation. You are worthy just the way you are. You are deserving. You are loved unconditionally by the universal omnipresent source of unconditional love, which we call God. And any voice inside or outside that tells you that you don't deserve the best or that you don't deserve all of the wonderful opportunities to be happy in life, you give that up. You let that go. You let it dissolve. You don't pay attention to that because there's a greater truth, and it's based in spirit and it's based in love. So our goal then, as my goal became, trying to work with the inner critic, trying to understand more about the critic. And when I ran into the Four Agreements and came to this simple yet powerful phrase, always do your best, I thought, oh my gosh, there's a difference. This is an amazing teaching. This is a life-saving teaching. These are the words that I've been waiting for. You know why? Because it didn't say always do the best. It said always do your best. And your best varies in any given situation at any given time. Your best varies. I can rehearse a speech. I can have spent a lot of time in prayer and in saying just the right words on paper, and I can do all of the preparation I need to do and be confident that I can do this speech, and then come down with laryngitis. Well, I'm still going to do the speech unless I can postpone it. But if it's an event, I have to do the speech. So I take the throat tea and I gargle and I do all of the recommended treatments and I pray and I get up to do the talk, but instead of a powerful resonant sound, I speak like this because that's all the voice I have. But I do it And I do it to the best of my ability because I am asked to do my best. And that was the best I had. And I gave it all, even though it wasn't the best that I am ever capable of doing. Now, what does that incredibly profound piece of advice do for me and anybody else who's working with a very severe inner critic? Well, it gives us an opportunity to respond to the inner critic by saying, no, I didn't do the best. I did not do the best I've ever done. I did not do an A+ in doing my best. But I'll tell you what I did do. I dressed up. I prepared myself as best I could, doing at-home remedies. I came up with energy, with a big smile, and I gave it everything I had. And the critic will reply, but that wasn't the best. And I say, I don't have to do the best. I just have to do my best. That's what I have to do. And so I could have dragged myself onto the stage and said, I'm sorry, I can't talk. I'm really sick. I'll give you all a hard copy of the speech. I have to go home and go to bed. Well, occasionally that might be appropriate. I'm not saying that would never be appropriate. There are times when it would be doing people a favor to not show up and be contagious. But this laryngitis wasn't the case. It was a strained throat. It wasn't because of a cold or I didn't have a fever and I wasn't otherwise ill. I had just used my voice too much, and these were the consequences. So I didn't want to blow it off. I didn't want to stay home. I didn't want to get a sub. I wanted to be there. I wanted to do my best. And so I did. Now, again, I just want to qualify this. Sometimes doing our best will be staying home. But most of the time, we can devote ourselves to giving the best we have, even though we know it's not as good as we would like to do or as we've done before. No shame, no blame. I tried. I tried everything. I did my best. Please accept what I have to offer. And I dare say most people would. So, always do your best has been quite a blessing to me. And I thought back on an interesting experience that I had a long, long time ago when I was 18 years old. It was really quite a bizarre experience, and I think you'll notice it as I briefly tell the story. But I always wondered why I did it. And so here's the story. I was 18 years old. I was in a production of Gypsy. There was a name singer actress playing the star role, Mama Rose, and she was married to the producer of the show. Naturally, I'm not going to share their names. Well, the producer was very, very strict about time. We had to be there half an hour before curtain. And there were no ifs, ands, or buts about it. We had to be there on time. He would yell, he would lose his temper, he would really be upset. Well, his wife, the star of the show, didn't have that kind of internal time clock, and she was always running just a little bit late. And furthermore, she had a baby 6 weeks prior to the performance, and she was just running a little slower. The baby was wanting to be fed. So much was going on that on this particular night, we were not going to get to the theater on time. Now, The bungalows where the cast was staying in was across this very large parking lot. The car was parked in front of the bungalows. The problem was if the husband, the producer, didn't see the car in the assigned parking space, he would just lose it and get really upset. So people in the house were saying, we've got to get the car into the parking space. But the star can't do it because she's feeding the baby, and this other person couldn't do it because of one reason or another. Leona, take the car and put it in the parking spot near the theater so he'll know we're there. And I said, I would love to help out, but the fact is, I don't know how to drive. I've never taken lessons. I don't have a license. I don't know how to drive. And the young lady who was dangling the keys in front of me said, oh, I know the reason she didn't drive. She was underage. Okay. So she dangled the keys in front of me and said, Leona, it's really simple. Anybody can do it. This is the gas. This is the brake. This is reverse. This is forward. Get in the car and just bring it over there. I don't want to take the guy's wrath, and I don't want him to yell at us. And it's like, I beg of you, please don't ask me to do this. They said, we're asking you to do it. They said, anybody can do it. Well, I'm anybody. If you say I can do it and you need me to do it, why shouldn't I try to do it? Well, obviously, there are really important answers to that, but I couldn't think of them at the moment. So the young lady takes me to the car, opens the door. It was her father's car. He was part of the production. And she says, you turn it on, turn the key, put it in drive. Drive it straight ahead into the theater parking lot. You know which spot is ours. Just turn right and slip it in the spot. I said, could you come with me? She said, I can't. I have to help with the baby. So I got into the car. Oh, I was already in the car. I start driving. I'm moving slowly, but I'm moving. And suddenly I panicked. I panicked big time, and I couldn't remember as I got closer to the cars. I couldn't remember which was the gas and which was the brake, and so I stepped on the one closest to the right, and it was the wrong guess, and I slammed into the side of a parked car. So, I got out of the car. I was petrified. I walked into the theater. I said, could I speak to Mr. So-and-so, please, who was the owner of the car, the young lady's father? And I said, I'm so deeply sorry to tell you this, but I have driven your car into someone else's. And he said, why? And I said, I don't know if I'll ever know. I don't know how to drive. I thought I could. I thought I could. I thought I should. But this is the result. Well, because I didn't have a license, I didn't have insurance, it was a workers' comp issue, and everybody lived happily ever after. But I carried that experience with me for a long time. Why did I do it? What caused me to think I could pull it off? What was the need for me to actually endeavor to accomplish this when the chances were really slim? And why did I take advice from a 13-year-old girl who actually knew how to drive but wasn't allowed to? And so I connected that experience with always do your best. And so for quite a while now, I've been saying to myself, if ever I'm reminded of that situation, well, I did my best until this week, when I looked at always do your best from a deeper vantage point, and I realized that before you do your best, first you have to know what to do. You have to know what to do before you do your best. And I didn't. No blame, no shame. Obviously, I wanted to save the day. I wanted to be a hero. Obviously, I wanted to do something nice. Obviously, I thought I could pull it off. But I didn't. So no shame, no blame. It happens. Things like that happen to young people and older people too. We think it's going to work out. So, but this helped me very much, this ability to say, if I were to do it all over again, if I did have the opportunity, I would probably say, since I don't know how to do it, I'm not going to trust the fact that this will be my lucky time. I'm going to respect the fact that I don't know how to do it. And before I drive, I will find out how to do it. And even then, there's no guarantee, but it's really important. It's a really important part of this agreement. Always do your best means give it your all, assuming you know what to do. You might not always be in shape to do it as fully as you want to. You might not always be in the mood to do it. You might be sad. You might be depressed. You might be frightened. You might be wanting to do something else. But because you are impeccable with your word, first agreement, then you do it. And you do your best under the circumstances. It requires discipline. It requires a commitment. And it requires a commitment not only to yourself, but the people who are involved in what you're going to do. They deserve the best of what you have. Not the best that anybody ever did. The best of what you have with a good attitude, an attitude of healthy participation, a place inside of you that has the integrity to know that you wouldn't give less than your best. You wouldn't blow something off. You wouldn't want that to happen to you. Always do your best, because doing that lets you take charge of the things you can control. Your attitude, your belief. If you don't want to do it, say no. But if you say yes, then do it with all your heart. Do it with all your soul. Do it so that you can make a new agreement, so that you can say to your inner critic, I gave it everything I had, and no one has the right to ask for anything more. Take a deep breath and relax now. Your mind and your heart are open to accepting this powerful information, which gives you an opportunity to relax into who you are, to cut yourself some slack, to be your best self under any circumstances, without being driven to do more than your best. You are a spiritual being learning to have a human experience. And this means learning, growing, knowing that even when things don't go your way, you have the choice to respond from the best in you. And that will always be more than enough. Allow yourself the freedom to choose what to do. And when you've made that choice, out of the deepest, most integral part of you, make the choice to give it your all, no matter what kind of day it is. You are enough. You are loved. And you are an expression of the living spirit of truth. And so it is. Amen. Let's take a moment now to bless our offering. Unity of San Luis Obispo is supported by your tithes and gifts. As you support this ministry, we have the opportunity to bring you new technologies that enable us to do our virtual ministry in a better way, using as much modern technology as we can. And we also understand that when you share your gifts, when you give in love, you always will receive 30, 60, 100-fold of that which you have given in a never-ending cycle of increase and prosperity. And so let's speak the words of our prosperity affirmation together. I give in love because I love to give. God is my source.
Here's a tune by Andre Previn called Like Young. 1, 2, 2, 4.
So cool. I love that song, Like Young. Great job once again, Brett and Matthew. Friends, I would like to remind you that Matthew and I do a podcast called Get Off Your Affirmation, and it airs wherever you get your podcasts. This week, we're doing a special podcast on the inner critic, making friends with your inner critic, making peace with your inner critic, which dovetails into the talk today and takes the whole topic deeper and further. So please listen to that episode, won't you? Let's sing our peace song.
Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, a peace that was meant to be. With God as creator, united all are we. Let us walk with each other in perfect harmony. Let peace begin with me. Let this be a moment now. With every breath I take, let this be my joyful vow. To take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me.
Our prayer for protection together. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is. God bless you. Have a wonderful week. You deserve it.
Every single person living peace in what we do. Only then will our dreams come true. Only then will our dreams come true. Only then will our dreams come true.